So hi, welcome to the Good Noise Podcast. I'm Shane,
I'm Glory.
and we're here with.
I'm Tim.
Jeff.
Matt. Oh man.
Yeah.
and Jeff from Bitter Branches.
And we're asking some questions to say about their new album, Your Neighbors Are Failures. So congrats on that, by the way. How do you guys feel about the response to the album so far?
I feel good. I don't love reading reviews, good or bad, because it's not the same process you use when writing music. At least not for us, right? We don't try to think about what people are going to think about it so much. But I feel like people are getting it, and it's interesting to hear. Like, I think it's been mostly positive from what I can tell, and people think it's sort of challenging and maybe angry, etc. But I'll let the other guys speak to it too.
Yeah, I mean, so far, we've had a lot of positive feedback, which is, is always refreshing and encouraging. Like Tim said, I think people are kind of getting what we're putting down, which, I think he said it well when I think Tim described it. We wanted to create music that we wanted to hear, and other people are accepting that, and that's cool.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. The thing that's been strange about it is, unlike every other band I think we've ever played in before, this was all conceived during the pandemic, and we've never played any songs to anybody until just recently. So, well received. I think I feel proud of it. I like it. But I think it's only been recently that anyone's even heard these songs, be it, over, iTunes or in person. So that's been fun. It's been great to play out when we have, and it's been received well. But yeah, honestly, it was written in like a chamber, and I had no idea, honestly, if how it would be received, and that really wasn't the context for it.
That's an excellent point.
It's in a very small bubble, so.
And no, that's a great point, because I think, all of us have been in bands before, and that's been well documented that we've all been in bands before. And it's almost like a bizarro thing where it's like, hey, we have a 5-song EP and a full LP. We have more songs than shows, you know what I mean? And
yeah.
And we're already on our second record label. So it's sort of like, it's a processing. It's weird, right? Cause it's it's never been part of my process to be like, wow, I wonder what everybody thinks of the LP we just recorded. It's more like, let's go play some shows and really, formulate our crafts, figure out who we are, all that kind of stuff. We sort of had to figure out a way to not have that stage of the band and just be like, let's just work hard, take it. So in that sense, it is gratifying to hear what people think of the record, because it's the thing we've been working on the hardest, right? Like writing these songs, in sort of a bubble.
Yeah, and we never had the any kind of feedback from any live performances to feed egos,
right,
or blow, or pop our bubble or whatever. Either way. So
Sure.
yeah.
All right. So is there any meaning behind the album name or cover art?
Yeah, of course. So Your Neighbors Are Failures. I mean, I just love that line, and I think about all the shit. I'm a father of 3, and they're all becoming adults, and I feel like you care about stuff and you want things to change, and I can't even get the people necessarily on my block to care about the same things I care about, right? So it's partly that, and it's a line from the first it's a line from Her Disease, which is a song on the first record, and so we sort of liked that it was like we're almost sampling the first record and using it for the title of the next record. We're almost thinking like, how would we do that again, right? I don't know. When I mentioned the title to my wife, she's like, "Ooh, that's sort of provocative and She's like, I don't know if I like that, which made me love it. So
there you go. Yeah.
That's great.
And the artwork was, and then I'll let these guys chime in. Damian Johnson from, I was in Kiss It Goodbye with him. He's done Playing Enemy and a million other bands.
Mm-hmm.
He's in Great Falls Noise right now. Great. And I've always loved his illustration, and so we wanted to we just sort of decided we wanted it to be sort of a Drive Like Jehu Yank Crime meets Black Flag Pettibone look to it. And I was like, I told him, I was like, just, mundane, everyday sort of things through sort of a sad lens almost, or a dystopian lens, or whatever you want to call it. And he literally sent me his sketchbook of a bunch of stuff he did. And so we just chose that for the cover.
Very cool. I love when bands do like the callback to like a previous album, like for their album title. I just wanted to point out that.
Cool.
So can you guys tell us a little bit about your writing process for this album? I know you said it was unorthodox, unlike any other record you guys have written. So
yeah, I guess. We should circle back to when we finished the first EP. We got that done 3 days. I think we were in there on Monday, and 3 days later, the whole world shut down.
Wow.
So we literally got it in under the gun. Thankfully, Tim had recorded vocals to Broiler sitting on the couch as like kind of scratch vocals, but they ended up fitting just perfectly for the mood of the song. So then, I guess that kind of, we got that out there. We didn't see one another. We were, chatting as much as we could. And then I guess, I don't know, 4 months later or something, 3 months later, we decided, okay, well, let's get together, and nothing's going to be happening. It doesn't seem like, because, shit's on lockdown everywhere.
Yeah.
So we started to gather. The weather was warm, so we got together in Tim's garage with very minimal instruments, not very loud. I had this like, kind of a toy. I call it a toy because I have a better electronic drum set sitting over there now that I practice with. But it was a serviceable drum kit that I was using. So we were doing that as, without trying to bother Tim's neighbors, with the garage door open, very spacious. Everybody was at least 6 to 10 feet apart, and we just kind of just kept going and going and going, and we just things started to roll, and then that led to us going into a more hi, here's my daughter.
Hi.
Oh, well, actually, so while we're here,
yeah, tell them.
So she actually drew our logo.
Oh, cool.
Oh,
there you go. And there's this one. There's Lily. So
hi.
Sadie actually drew the Bitter Branches logo that is on the album. During the middle of all this creating, and Tim was like, "Yeah, we got to use that." So that is now our logo.
That's super cool.
So, but yeah, so we, it went from there. We got this rehearsal space that Tim, a buddy of ours, Tim Leo, had in his metal fabricating shop, and we decided to get together. I mean, we hadn't, we were all keeping it pretty tight. We just seen our immediate families and one another, and basically that's what we did. We went to work every week. We just kept going and writing and writing and writing. So yeah, I don't know, Matt, you want to add anything to that?
No, I think that's right. I mean, it's all kind of written over the pandemic, the Trump craziness, and
people, this is real life. Glamorous rock star life right here.
I don't have much more to say. I mean, I think there's like a ton of ideas flowing the whole time because of all the craziness around us. And it felt really fertile in that sense. Like everyone is coming in with lots of ideas all the time, and we had time to just like kind of work through ideas and flesh out songs, and songs would just kind of evolve how they were going to evolve over that period. So it, in some ways it felt like the worst of times to be, doing something, but also, it was pretty special for me, at least, to have that like intense summer and fall, really, just to like dig into it.
Yeah, I think back at that time, and I mean, there was so much, unsettling chaos. So going on every single week, right? There was just so much happening. So it I think that probably fueled the fire, which we wanted to start this band with. I mean, we all knew we had something to say, or still had something to give, and we wanted to, have an outlet for it. And, the world certainly, teed it up for us and gave us a full plate to eat from. So, and I think we utilized all that to really,
And am I right where the two of you sort of also said, we're going to write 10 songs in the next 10 months or something like that? I felt like we were on a specific mission,
Matt and I on the back channels were kind of giving each other like, okay, let's get this much by this time, to kind of have a goal. And we reached it.
Sounds like it. Yeah. So
16 songs in less than 12 months is pretty good.
It's very good.
So despite like the whole world situation, you guys were able to write this entire album in person?
Yeah. We didn't, I mean, with, little bits that Matt and I would send back and forth to one another. I see, I guess through the process, like we were all involved, but Matt and I tend to take some time to like kind of fine tune. Like we would show up before everybody and try to like work out some things. So that way we had a working portion to present, to try to flesh out more ideas with everybody present. But, there wasn't, it wasn't like file sharing, much of that. It was really just kind of more, Matt would record a riff and then he'd send it to me and I would figure out something that I could play to it to be a little bit more fruitful when we got together, instead of, I'm not a jam guy. I hate jamming. Like I've never been a jamming drummer. Like if you want to jam, I ain't your man. Like I'm out. Like I'm just done. I don't have dollars for that. And we've never really done that in any band that I've been in. So I want to really have something, at least something serviceable that everyone can kind of, it just kind of helps the process, catapult that process, a lot quicker. If you're just trying to work something out while everybody's present.
That makes sense.
For sure. So I want you three to tell us your favorite lyric off this album and the meaning behind it.
Oh man.
Mm-hmm.
Oh God.
That's a good question. Who wants to start?
I mean, I wrote the lyrics, so it's hard for me to pick a favorite. Like every song, like Solo Trip, right? Which was, I think, the last song we wrote. Is that right? It was like,
yeah.
So I'm a father of three. I've got a 20-year-old daughter, a 17-year-old daughter, and a 17-year-old son. They're about to become 18. And honestly, so much of what I write now is me trying to convey messages to them. It's almost like a message in a bottle kind of thing, right? The Man Who Never Cries is about the death of my father, so that's just an intense song for me, trying to wrap my head around death. There's no particular lyric in there that I think is my favorite. Solo Trip is about not giving your power away, right? Not letting a rumor or a trend or a like or a dislike or an invite to a party or not, or whatever it is, right? Like not letting all this outside shit or a bad record review or whatever it is, right? Don't give that shit power. So thematically, that's one of my favorite songs. I would not put a thief in my mouth to steal my mind is one of my favorite lines. I think I wrote it, or someone said it to me. You know what I mean? Like sometimes what happens is I chat with people and they don't realize how poetic they are, and I'll like write that shit down. And then it'll pop up. Which is why it goes back to even the songwriting process and not doing it like with file transfers and stuff. Like I think we, deliberately or not, wrote these songs like the old fashioned way, where you get into a room and you work out a song. And as the singer, I get, I just riff over the song. Sometimes it's gibberish, sometimes it's a phrase or two. And the songs become muscle memory. So when I go to record, stuff just comes out. And so in some ways, it's more like I like the way certain things came out in the recording is almost more the way I think about it than a specific lyric. Okay. Although I love all of Monsters Among Us, and that's a song where I wrote sort of directly to my daughters about the horrors of men. So I'm like, I'll let the other guys talk now.
All right.
I'll go, man. So yeah, the line of Tim's when he says, "Don't let a thief inside my mouth to steal my mind," is, but even I guess the way that song syncs up with certain lines. I remember specifically after we recorded and then Kurt mixed it and we got the finals back. Actually, we got the masters back and sitting in my living room listening to it. And I think it was when you say, God, what it's in that same song. God, I can't think of it. I'm losing it. Well, that's one. I'm losing it. That's one. But then the other, it's funny. Like, be careful, you might get shit on your shoes from plastic tongues. Is pretty funny too. But it's just like, that's just that sarcasm.
Baby's way too ugly.
Yeah. Wait, no, yeah. The baby's. What's that one? The baby. That was great. I think Ian liked that one, didn't he?
He might. I think he just commented
on that. Yeah, I don't know.
I don't think Matt knows any of the words.
I do know many of the words. I'm not going to portray to know every single one. It's fun. It's a good question. It's like I'm thinking about it, and one that just jumps to mind is a lot of the song "Monsters" and "The Monsters Are Real" line. And like for all of our lyrics, I can't really disentangle it from Tim, and like knowing him as a person and hearing some of like his thoughts behind the lyrics. So for me, it's not even like a lyric on a piece of paper of like, oh, that's poetic in a way. It could be that, but it's also, for me, it's more like the Monsters Are Real thing I always love, just because it speaks to parenthood in a way that resonates with me, in a kind of like and I mean, just to get savvy for a second, I think something I really respect about Tim and have gathered from him of like being very real with your kids and being real because you love them and you want them to be, resilient in a hard world. So a lot of that song kind of communicates that to me, and resonates as a parent too.
Yeah, I guess to that same end, like that's when in Sorry You're Not a Winner, when the way that the lyrics and the music sync up when you say "you are not enough." I mean, I remember listening to that and getting goosebumps and be like, holy shit, like this is a very powerful combination of things. And it's just like, yeah, this is something it was a really proud song to I just started to really get jazzed up about the whole thing when I heard that.
Super cool. So how'd the track list for the album come about? Did you guys write the opener be the opener, closer be the closer? Did you shuffle around and see what fits? What was that process like?
Well, we definitely just spit out a bunch of songs, and there wasn't really any thought about placement or what could go where. mean, I think we did feel at a certain point like we probably have an LP here, because there was just like enough songs that kind of fit an LP, and to me it felt like thematic and specific to a time. So it's like, yeah, an LP would probably be the vehicle for this thing, or the right container for it. But yeah, in terms of placement, I think, I mean, tell me if I'm wrong, guys, but I think we just like wrote a bunch of stuff, and after it was recorded, like just kind of asked ourselves, like, how does this flow nicely over the course of an album? Yeah, I mean, I don't think
it's kind of like
much more.
I think through the
yeah.
process, actually, with us recording them, I think the natural flow started to come evident to us throughout just throughout the recording process. And then Matt was very adamant in a good way to make Along Came a Bastard the first song, because he said, I think it makes a statement. It's like, well, for one, it's funny because I remember Tim coming to practice and him hearing us playing that and just that intro. And it was a long walk from the door to the back room where we practiced. And so he kind of like walked into that. So it was kind of like, it was almost like a very natural intro, but also the subject matter of the song. Matt's like, we got to put this out there and be like, okay, strap in. Like, this is the ride we're going to take you on.
Yeah.
And and then kind of just from that, I think it just naturally fell into place.
Plus, this is going to sound name droppy, but I was talking to Alan Cage who's actually a friend of Matt's, from Quicksand and Burn and Beyond, and etc. And we were talking about Negative Approach, and this is probably 1989, 1990, right? And that record is notoriously fantastic, right? It's one of the greatest hardcore records of all time. John Brannon's one of the greatest hardcore singers of all time. And Alan Cage is like, I don't think it's an accident that I'll Survive is the last song on that LP, right? It's sort of, because it's this like really negative, angry record, and then the last song is I'll Survive, right? And I've always thought about that, like that, that sort of planted something in my mind. And the last song on this record is, Show Me Yours, which to me is sort of a love letter to all the fellow freaks that, need something because they feel like they're on the outside. So it's sort of a celebration of all of us supposedly weird, ugly people, whatever. So I always thought that should be the last song for that.
Yeah.
Because we sort of drag you through the mud, right? And I feel like, we're not singing you lullabies this whole time. Like we're sort of going through some stuff. So I feel like at the end, it's like,
the way that song actually took shape was it became like this, like, very anthemic, like, it just came to like this crescendo that was just like, this is the impactful last song. This is and there's some great lines that Tim has, some lyrics in that song too. I think it's hard to pick a favorite when they're all pretty awesome. But that one, we actually told Kirkwood to mix it. Like, we want this to be like this, bombastic, just like anthemic, just like, stamp on the end of this record to just like, boom. And I think he did. I think he really helped capture that pretty well.
And I think it's super cool that like you guys wrote these songs like with really no idea of like where they were going to go on an album or if they were even going to go on an album. You guys were just kind of trying to meet a goal that was like in the back end that only two people knew about, and then we're able to make an album that flows really, really well with those songs. So I think that's very cool.
Thanks.
Cool. So you guys spoke about it briefly a couple questions ago, but if you want, you could go a bit more in depth. Would you be able to tell us where your headspace was at while you were creating this album?
Oof.
My headspace was, fuck you. In terms of like just COVID, politics, like everything. In some ways, I'm like, you know, my kids are the age I was when I got into like punk rock and everything. And much to my dismay, it's like worse. It's like either that or my blinders are off more than you know, or it's both, or someone just turned the lights on brighter, you know. And then you've got COVID, so you've got nothing. Like, I'm already antisocial, but Jesus Christ, like you add COVID to that mix, and you've got nothing but your thoughts. And when you're writing a record, I think you, as a lyricist, I mull in those thoughts. So my thing was like, I sort of was on a mission to be like, okay, this COVID thing's gonna be a bookmark in everybody's life. We're gonna look back and be like, we made this. You know what I mean? And it's gonna sound like when it came out, the way Dead Kennedy sound like when they. So it's, I don't know, it's sort of a bookmark for this time, and I don't know, it's a worthwhile thing, I think, to try to create something out of that. And maybe you look back at it 10 years from now and you kind of go, holy shit, you know. So hopefully I answered your question.
You did.
Right. You guys can try too.
Yeah. Anyone else want to chime in?
Yeah, I think, I mean, there was this, you know, that obviously this dark cloud that we were walking through with not just COVID, but, you know, the last year of a generational, you know, sickening presidency that was just like every fucking day you turn something on, it was just like you hated to wake up to because of what you were going to read, what happened the night before. Or the day before. It was just like, oh my God, could it get any fucking worse? You know, and then with you know, all the racial turmoil and the political unrest around that, it was just, you know, no one could catch a fucking break. You know, and it was just like, and I think we really captured that emotionally through how we created the music and the lyrics. And again, not like, it's just not, you know, like this is about COVID or this is about that. It's kind of just like, you know, it reminded me about, you know, the first time I heard Ted Kennedy's Plastic Surgery Disasters or something like that. Like, there was all of this shit happening, and they wrote about all of it, you know, and that kind of was a motivator for me, and kind of like a, you know, the carrot in front of me, like, yeah, this is like, think about what the guys that influenced you, or, you know, caught your attention at 15 and 16, and try to focus in on that. So
yeah,
very
so
cool.
basically you made like a time capsule for 2020.
Yeah, in a way, yeah.
Without calling the record COVID Blues or
and I'd only add that and I for me, like, nothing really felt premeditated in any way. It was, I mean, like, I felt destabilized and fucked up like everybody else did, right? So it's just like, this is what came out. I'm not really a wordsmith, so for me it was more just like a lot of riffs came out and songs came out really easily. That spoke to that. I think like our music will probably sound different in different time periods, but it's just, you know, I think it's a good question, but it also wasn't that thought out, I would say, at least on my end. It was more just like, this is what keeps coming, so let's see where it goes. And that's kind of been the ethos of the band, and trying not to like overthink things too much, just like if it feels real and feels right and we're all kind of moved by it on some emotional level, like, we go with it, and if it doesn't, scrap it and move on to something else.
Fair enough.
Sure.
Yeah, and one more thing, not to harp on these reviews, but it's the first time we're sort of getting feedback, right? And I'm personally surprised that people seem surprised that the record might seem angry or frustrated or challenging, because I'm like, well, yeah, I mean, think about first of all, it's through sort of this punk hardcore whatever lens, and we made it when we made it. So I'm like, and already this music is sort of has a history of frustration, anger, like a platform for that. So I've been surprised where people are like, yeah, it's sort of like you're not gonna hear an angrier record than this. And I'm like, I guess, like,
duh.
Yeah, I'm surprised that people would be surprised by that.
I am also surprised by that.
Yeah, that's kind of odd.
So how do you recommend your fans to listen to this album for the first time? Should they do it in the car with friends, in the dark with headphones on? Is it a workout album, a party album? What do you guys personally recommend?
Beer pong champion, beer pong.
Okay.
Perfect. I don't know. I mean, that's a good question.
Yeah, I guess if you want to clear a room, you could play it at a party, but I wouldn't recommend that.
If you want to end a party.
Exactly. My buddy listened to it, and he said, and he goes, "Yeah, you got some room clearers in this." And I was like, I said, that might have been one of Matt's, low level
my specialty
priorities. That's his style. But that's a tough one. Well, it's definitely not necessarily. I don't know. I mean, it's not a party album, I guess.
I mean, for me, I can only speak for myself, right? But for me, like, I like to run or, like go on walks or something and like really dive into an album. And there's a handful of albums that I love from over the years. And like every once in a while, it's like kind of be in my own headspace and go deep in something. So for me, the record is more of that kind of record. It's like when you have time to yourself and you can just immerse yourself in it and lose yourself in it a little bit. And it's not like a sharing space with others record, I guess. But I don't know. It's all for whatever. I'm not going to tell people what's
That's
good
what the shows
them,
are
so.
for. Yeah. I think this is like, depending on your age, alone in your room or alone in your car, play it loud, and flip through the lyric booklet. Like that's my thought, right? Which we can share with you guys.
I look at it two ways. Like I drive a lot for work, so I listen to a lot of music, and so I have that time alone where I'm just focusing in on, either one band or one record or whatever it is. And I can see this, fitting right into that. But I also like to sit at home, look at a record. I mean, this is kind of what motivated us and motivated Tim with how we created the graphics part of this is. There was definitely an intentional presentation for all of this, right? So you have this visually stark, simple, but very complex in its own way, drawings and graphics, black and white, with the flash of red. And you can flip along with the booklet. And I mean, it harkens back to when you got, when you get a record and you want to look at the whole package and listen to it, put it on your headphones, put it on your speakers, whatever, and just actually go through it. Yeah. I would pour over, it was a 1-page Rites of Spring insert. And I looked at that every single time I listened to that record, every single time I look at it. Right. And it's, so, you kind of have, in my mind, you have both of those things, right? You can listen to it on the trip or going to going for a long drive, or you can just sit at home and just go flip through it and really absorb everything that's included, because I think it's important.
Very cool.
Sure. So this one should be super, super quick. Off the top of your heads, I want you guys to describe this album for new listeners in 3 words each. No more, no less.
Describe this record in 3 words?
Yeah.
Only 3.
No more, no less.
And it's supposed to be fast.
Yeah.
I mean,
don't think so much.
Based on what I just said, I would say a solo trip. But again, that's just how I experienced the record.
Hey, that's perfect.
So.
For some reason, I thought Old Man Blues. There you go.
All right.
You want to go with that? All right. Cool.
If it's got to be quick, yeah.
I'm gonna have to pass. I don't know.
No, that's not an option. Come
on. Old jaded punk. I don't know.
All right, there
you
go.
go.
Look at that.
There you go.
Perfect.
Come on.
So in that same train of thought, but not as much pressure, I promise, is there a certain feeling or emotion you want your listeners to have while going through this album?
Wow.
An emotion I want them to have? It might sound weird, but almost empathy. Like I try hard because I know how I sing. I know what I'm good at. I know my lane, and I never want to sound like a tough guy, right? So vulnerability, empathy, desperation, compassion. That's more where my head's at. Frustration. I find these all very relatable emotions that people don't like to share necessarily. So I feel like that's sort of a gift you can give people with music like this. Knowing you're not the only person that feels these things because you're forced to try to like filter everything, literally and figuratively. So yeah, that's my take.
All right.
That's good.
This may be counterintuitive to some of the subject matter, but to me, hopeful, because there's a lot of despair within it, and a lot, just like Tim, shining a light on certain things, and it's like, you can be better than the shit that's around you, right? Mm-hmm. So that as far as having hope, you don't have to be like the shitheads that you encounter every day, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Not so much for me a particular emotion, but having an emotion, I guess is kind of where I would go in some ways. Like I think, one thing I really like about Tim's singing and vocals is, I think, as he said, like it's vulnerable when I hear it, and it like kind of pushes me when I hear it to like maybe go to some emotions or like go to some places I might not otherwise be able to get to. So I would hope, if somebody likes the record, it might help crack open a little bit and let a little bit put you in touch, or get somewhere they wouldn't otherwise. That's kind of how I look at it.
All right.
Okay. Perfect.
Well said, Matt. Well
yes.
said.
We are deceptively emo.
So what is your favorite memory that you guys made while creating this album?
One thing that stuck out that now that I listen to it, I'm glad that Matt pushed us to do something. We had the album in the bag. We came back to do, I think we were there to do, either bass tracks or guitar tracks. And we recorded the entire Along Came a Bastard again. Mm-hmm. It was too fast originally, and I just recently I listened to it. Actually, I guess when the record came out last week, it's going to sound any different on iTunes than it does, with the master tunes that you get from Brad when he did it. But so you listen to it, and you're like, I was like, and then actually, I guess it was when we were practicing for the shows that we've been playing. I was like, I'm so glad Matt said we need to do that again, and I was like, and it was the right move. So that it's not necessarily it was just, I'm glad Matt decided to push me to do that. Mm-hmm. So thanks, Matt.
Yeah. Anyone else?
I'm just glad recording's over, honestly.
That's fair.
Wait a minute. And another great memory was when Matt spent an entire half of the day doing all of the fucking layer tracks for Monsters Among Us.
Oh my god.
Well, yeah, I think I took longer trying to record synthesizer that we never used than recording guitar.
Poor Matt.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. If you let me really indulge,
he had a vision, and Mike let him Mike indulged his creativity.
This is why I'll never make a solo record, because no one would want to hear it. I don't have much to offer except I don't know. It felt like such a gift to be able to have like a handful of days in person playing music. Just like the pandemic in general has made me really, really appreciate the moments I get that feel a little bit, I guess normal is not the right word, but just like moments for connection and interaction and creativity with other humans. Like those are fewer and farther between these days. So it was just fun to make it in my book at Mike Bardzik's place.
Yeah, I mean, I want to give shout out to Mike Bardzik.
Oh yeah, for sure.
His cat, whatever the cat's name
Donut.
is.
Oh,
Donut.
The
real hero.
Cutout of the life-size cutout of The Rock. I don't know. There's all these little things.
Always gotta have that. Yeah.
The sofa I get to hang out on while they record their music, but it's like waiting backstage because then once I do my vocals, it's like waiting to run a marathon or something. Like you train for it and theoretically you love it, but when you're actually doing it, you're like, oh my god, this needs to be over.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Fair enough. So picture this: you're on tour, you're at a gas station for a rest stop. What is your snack of choice?
Snack choice?
Snack choice.
If I'm being healthy, it's a Cliff Bar, but if I'm being indulgent, I look for those giant boxes of Good and Plenty's.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I used to be the guy who would get beef jerky, but those days are long gone. So for me, it's like a banana and water at this stage.
Oh God!
You trust
fall.
You trust gas station fruit
more than gas station beef jerky.
That's fucked up, man. That's fucked up. I mean, at least the beef jerky's packaged, like the fucking fruit isn't just out there, man.
Raw dog in air, man.
Sometimes you gotta throw caution to the wind, you know.
Yeah, a banana peel. It's God's package.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's God's packaging. Yeah, I mean, I guess I would probably, more so I would go for like a Cliff Bar at this point, but
I know it's like boring healthy stuff.
Fair enough.
Yeah, or I can usually deal without.
So for this last question, we're actually going to shift away from music, if that's okay with you guys. Sick. So we're actually going to go straight to death row.
Boom.
So if you're on death row, what would your last meal be with a drink?
Oh, I thought you were talking about Suge Knight for a minute.
I thought that would be.
We get dropped by Equal Vision.
You're not on Equal Vision. You're on death row. What kind of?
Yeah,
exactly.
Dan would jump and ship to death row.
Last meal, you said?
Yeah, last meal with a drink.
I would literally, because I'm like a boring vegan kind of, so I would literally you'd have to get me the largest box of Lucky Charms, so I could just eat that forever. I'd want a pack of cigarettes because I haven't smoked since I was 18.
Huh?
And it'd either be whiskey or tequila. I don't know. That'd be a tough choice.
All right, fair enough.
I could pour the whiskey or the tequila.
Yeah, I might.
There's your milk.
Gross.
I might just bypass the food and go straight to whiskey. I think for me it would be a bottle of Redbreast Irish whiskey, both because it's delicious and I've had a lot of good memories with friends drinking that. So it would be a sweet moment, I suppose, before my bitter end.
Yeah.
I would go with a simple basil pesto and pasta.
That sounds banging.
And then a nice dry red wine to relax me before I
way too sophisticated.
End of days. What's that?
But way too sophisticated.
No, I mean, well, it's also very simple. Like I don't.
Nice dry red wine.
So I've asked the last question, and every single person who's spoken to has said that it is the most important question. What's your favorite color?
Orange. Because my daughter told me that when she was like 5 years old. So it's official.
There you go.
My daughter would say mine is gray, but I would say mine is orange.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Perfect.
I always come back to blue. I'm not sure why, but
fair enough.
That's what I always gravitate to.
Yeah.
All right, fair enough. So as I said, that's all the questions we have today. Is there anything that you guys like to plug?
I guess we have our record, right? Our record's there. We've got a bunch of shows coming up. Next weekend, well, this is the timestamp, but next weekend we're going to be DC, Rhode Island, and Brooklyn. And then the end of April, we're going to be Chicago, Milwaukee, and Detroit. That's all I got to say.
All right.
Go Sixers.
All right. Well, thank you for now. This guy's been Bitter Branches, and we have been the Good Noise Podcast.